In my reviews, I previously praised Aventon for their solidly spec'd bikes for the price and for their above average quality control and attention to detail. It seemed like their bikes were great. But in light of some new information, no matter how good Aventon may appear on paper, I have to reverse my judgment. I can't in good conscience recommend Aventon anymore, and I must now recommend that you don't buy anything from Aventon. I want to make my position clear. I want you all to know the truth so that you can enjoy cycling safely. I'm here because I have the responsibility of being somebody with a voice in the fixed gear world, and you all need to know the truth, especially when it comes to your safety. I previously strongly recommended Aventon bikes, and a lot of you have even gone out and bought them based off of my recommendation, but now my thoughts on them have changed. Regardless of what my opinion is, I want you all to be critical of this video and to come to your own conclusions. In this video, we'll cover the story of an Aventon customer who bought a brand new Aventon Matero that was dented from the factory, whether this story is true and credible at all, and why it matters if it is true. A viewer of mine emailed me the following. This is a redacted count of our email correspondence. I bought a 2018 Matero. Up until now, I've been enjoying the bike for the most part, a couple upgrades, but the core remains the same. However, this week I fancied stripping the paint to polish the raw aluminum. This is what I found underneath the paint. I have never, ever seen something like this before, and I'm positively disgusted. I'm being given the runaround by Aventon to have this rectified, and the retailer I bought it from, Brick Lane Bikes in London, have told me to shove it right up my arse, as it was my fault for removing the paint and revealing the bodged fixed underneath. Then I asked the viewer to give more detail, and they replied, "Whilst stripping the paint, I found a faint brown spot beneath the thinning white paint, so I focused my attention to see what it was. As the paint flaked away, it became increasingly clear it was a filler of some sort, so I took a photo. I used sandpaper to then work through the filler till I hit bare metal. The dent they'd hidden was about 120 millimeters in total diameter, with the central depth being about 5 to 10 millimeters. BLB initially refused my warranty claim, implying that every bicycle sold could be hiding the same issue and was therefore a non-issue. Aventon have worked with BLB to replace the frame slowly, but it eventually happens with a raw Cordoba. I then emailed Aventon directly asking for an explanation as to why they were selling frame sets with dents and filling those dents directly from the factory. This is their redacted response. Unfortunately, our distribution partners, BLB, made some mistakes while handling this warranty issue. Like all manufacturers, there can be issues along the production line that need to be addressed through the warranty, which, by the way, we have lifetime warranty on frame and fork, blah, blah, blah. We actually didn't discover it until a Reddit thread was posted, so it came as a surprise to us. There's a lot of questions that arise from this situation, but before we jump to conclusions, we first need to determine whether the story is true beyond a reasonable doubt. So here are the facts. First, a viewer emailed me claiming that they bought a brand new 2018 Aventon Matero from Brick Lane Bikes in London. Second, the viewer claimed they stripped the bike of paint and found a dent underneath the paint. They provided photographic evidence. Third, the dent in question was covered with a light brown material, then covered in paint, as seen in the photos. Fourth, the viewer claims that after email correspondence with both Brick Lane Bikes, the distributor, and Aventon, the manufacturer, Aventon replaced the dented frame with a raw Aventon Cordoba through their distributor, Brick Lane Bikes. And fifth, I emailed Aventon regarding this case, and they provided corroborating details, as in they honored the warranty and they replaced the frame set through Brick Lane Bikes. Since this video is a secondary source, we need to see if my sources are credible. First, is the viewer credible? Well, they provide great detail of the paint stripping process and the warranty experience. They document the dent and filler claim with photographic evidence, albeit less than ideal photographic evidence, and all they get out of this is a lower value frame set, i.e. wasted money and a whole lot of wasted time, meaning they have very little motive to make any of this up. So the viewer checks out. And then there's Aventon themselves. In my email correspondence with them, they provided corroborating details for the viewer's experience, and since they are the defending party, so to speak, in this case, that confirms the validity of this case. Other than telling the truth, Aventon has very little motive to say that this case ever even happens, yet they still told the truth. Aventon also refers to a Reddit thread about the case, which indeed does exist, and you can find them linked in the description. Although the original post and the user for the Reddit thread have since been deleted, the comments surrounding the issue are still available. The fact that Aventon honored the warranty implies the validity of this case. In other words, the validity that Aventon did sell a frameset that was dented and filled from the factory as new. Therefore, Aventon seems like a credible source. By taking these facts of this case along with the reliability of the sources and their corroborating statements, we can conclude, beyond a reasonable doubt, Aventon sold a 2018 Matero that was dented from the factory, and beyond a reasonable doubt, Aventon concealed the dent with filler during the manufacturing process. Throughout the rest of this video, I'll analyze this case and give you my opinion. If you have a different opinion on the matter, please do let me know in the comments along with your reasoning, and let's have a civil discussion. A question that we need to answer is what, if any, are the implications of this case? The first implication that we need to explore is responsibility. Is Aventon responsible for this case? And the short answer is yes. An important detail here is that Aventon manufactures their own frame sets. They have a manufacturing team and a factory as stated on their website, meaning that Aventon is responsible for this situation no matter how much quote-unquote of a surprise it came to Aventon's management. Whether Aventon knows about dents being concealed at the factory is another question entirely, but that question is almost irrelevant. The fact remains, Aventon as a company manufactured a damaged frame set, tried to conceal the damage, and sold it as new. Therefore, Aventon is responsible. And the most important implication that they are responsible for that we need to explore is safety. Here is my argument. Dents in aluminum bike frames are weak points that can eventually lead to failure. A failed frame set can lead to injury and loss of life. Aventon sold at least one aluminum frame set that was dented from the factory, and Aventon as a company intentionally concealed the dent to sell the frame set. Therefore, Aventon intentionally sold at least one frame set that could potentially lead to injury or loss of life. The gray area here, though, is in the first premise, that dents in aluminum frame sets can eventually lead to failure. While this premise is true, it's not completely black and white. Some dents are more serious than others, and without a structural analysis on the frame set by an expert, we cannot conclude with certainty that this particular frame set was unsafe to ride. Thus, we can't conclude with certainty that Aventon irresponsibly sold an unsafe bike. In Aventon's defense, maybe the dent was small enough where they could safely fill it in and be done with it, but then again, maybe it wasn't. At this point, we don't have the evidence to argue in either direction. But just because we don't have the evidence doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything about it. Whether this case happened because of shady business practices or poor management is almost irrelevant. The fact remains that someone at Aventon, whether it's an individual at a factory or someone higher up, made the decision to intentionally fill a fist-sized dent, potentially sacrificing safety, presumably to make more profit at the customer's expense. This case raises questions about Aventon's reputation across all of their products. If the Aventon Matero has questionable at best quality control, what about their cheaper Cordoba? If their aluminum has questionable safety, how safe are their full carbon forks where even the most minor of slips in quality control can lead to catastrophic failure? If Aventon is hiding potentially, and I emphasize potentially, life-threatening dents in their aluminum frames, what else are they hiding, or what else is happening in their own factory that they're ignorant about? Whether it's shady business practice or ignorance, where does it end? Because we are the ones that suffer in the end, because we are the ones that are out there riding their bikes. In light of this case, I now question everything that Aventon sells, despite my positive experience with them. Aventons are probably safe, but probably safe isn't good enough for me, especially when it comes to products that could potentially kill somebody in the event that it fails. I personally don't gamble with safety, and I really hope that you don't either. And because of that, I encourage you not to buy anything from Aventon for your own safety, That includes their other brands, 6coup and Populo. Through their lack of transparency, Aventon has completely lost my trust, and moving forward, I will have nothing to do with them. While I would like to say that Aventon has changed for the better, they've had a slippery history. When they first came on the scene, they essentially lied about their frames having smooth welds. They had an issue with snapping carbon forks. If that's not life-threatening, I don't know what is. And now it's come to light that as a company, they are intentionally selling frames with questionable at best safety. With all this cost cutting, it's only a matter of time until they find themselves actually killing someone, or they find themselves in a lawsuit and wake up. When it comes to bikes, the old adage is true: you get what you pay for. But all this analysis is just my opinion, and I'd like to know yours. So let me know your thoughts about this story in the comments. Is my standpoint justified? Am I overreacting? Or is the truth somewhere in the middle? Let me know. And Fixie famous shoutouts to Evan, Clement, Joy Rapalo, Marek Dravecky, and Stan Strong for their support on Patreon and making videos like this possible. If you haven't ridden your bike yet today, stop watching me right now and ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous, unless it's an Aventon, because at this point, that seems just dangerous.